Baltimore. Welcome to the presentation from Green Energy Money to Financing, Valuing, and Marketing High Performance Homes. I'm Teresa Lopez, and I've been a green economic, I don't know what to call myself, I guess, performer for the last 20 years. I've been working with the climate change and with finding solutions for financing and value and obviously marketing high performance homes. I wear two hats. I'm a national licensed mortgage banker with the Federal Savings Bank, and I'm also the Green Economic Development CEO of Green Energy Money. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and get started today. So the questions that we're always asking that people call me the most on is, what is a green building worth and how do we value it? How do we get that green premium value? And we've got challenges regarding that information with mainly because the fragmented data that's not available in the market and the fact that we're trying to fit something in a box and use paired sales analysis and different kinds of things that are not apples to apples. They're more like apples to oranges, and that becomes a real big challenge, as well as the appraisers and everyone have a lot of misconceptions about this type of home. We have lack of inventory in many, many regions that aren't listed on the multiple listing service. So there is mostly the higher performance homes or custom homes, and those aren't typically listed, only the land is. So they're not resold, and we find that these homes don't sell as quickly. People hold onto them for a lot longer. So how do we get to that green premium value, and what does that represent? Well, it represents a better building and a better improved building, as well as resilience from climate change and reduced operating cost and all kinds of good stuff that really does help to mitigate risk in this market. We have, like I said, a limited diffusion of high performance custom homes. There are a lot of them in the marketplace. They just are invisible and we don't know where they are. There's, just incomplete market data. So what kind of problems do we solve at GEM? We have our deliverables, which are green appraisals. So we have a national appraisal panel with qualified appraisers that are trained to be able to value these homes with a green premium involved. That's one thing. It's a national program. We have, I don't know, about probably 12, 13 states covering right now, including Maryland, DC metro area. The green lending, so we have access to national mortgage lenders and that actually know how to underwrite these loans. So if you go to a traditional lender, you're probably not going to know what you're doing and understand the language or understand how to actually underwrite and qualify these homes. We offer marketing as education, training for realtors, builders, sales teams, lending teams, and anyone really that wants to learn this. I think it's an exciting opportunity for people to learn this type of niche in the industry as it becomes more and more mainstream. We also offer quality assurance and risk performance for lenders. So in the portfolios that we fund, we're able to see how these homes are performing, resilience, whether they have, what their market timing is, if they're defaults, the kind of credit packages they have. These are much higher quality assets in our experience. Problems we solve are education. So obviously we bring lending solutions and appraisers, lenders, and realtors together in a silo to be able to help make the market work. And green appraisal valuation, so premium value that translates to higher interest or improved interest rate, not a higher real interest rate. Sorry about that. So yeah, so this does translate. In essence, the green appraisal becomes a green mortgage because you can get a better interest rate because of the loan to value being lower. incentivize financing. So obviously we can get you better deals. The interest rates are a little bit better. So the valuation really helps on with all of those things. Improve climate, obviously building resilience and reduce risk for all stakeholders. Really important point because a lot of the lenders don't even know what is in their portfolios. They're all just lending kind of blindly, not knowing what the performance of those homes are doing, or if they're resilient or not, if there's any deferred maintenance. All those things are not visible, unfortunately, and I think they're starting to realize that now as climate change has been, evolving. So what kind of benefits are there to this? The economic benefits obviously are lower operating costs. Most of these homes on the high performance level are over 50%, as much as 95% lower than a conventional home. Most of the utility bills we see are much lower. They're like $25, $50 a month average. And that's because of the grid connection and then paying the utility surcharges. Mostly it's not from any energy usage. They're net zero, which means they're net energy and they're also lower carbon emissions. Energy cost comparison. So we see that the principal interest and energy costs, what we call the pie, is lower of overall payments on a high performance green home rather than a conventional home. So the energy costs are something people forget to gauge in their analysis. So if you're looking at what it cost and how much more you're paying for that solar, whatever, that high performance building envelope, you're actually better off looking at what the energy cost reduction are to be able to compare that to a conventional home. And you will see that it's substantially lower in most cases. It's resilient to building tech. We're seeing a lot of homes that are now coming in and adding energy independence by plugging in their cars and building enough energy resources in the home to be able to maintain their electric vehicles. So this also translates to a higher green premium value, and it creates energy interdependence because your car can charge your house and your house can charge your car. So these are the future that is now. We're already seeing these types of homes coming online on the marketplace in several different, we call high adapter markets. High performance building also contributes to a lower carbon footprint. And so now we're able to analyze what that carbon reduction looks like. It's getting very exciting where we can actually see in numbers how much those homes are reducing that carbon emission and the grid consumption as well, which obviously helps us from having to build new infrastructure on the grid. So the economic story that we miss many times, these are kind of the four buckets, I'd say, that you have to look at when you're evaluating a green home. The deferred maintenance, okay, is the very first thing. What does that represent? People don't realize a lot of real estate agents that I've worked with in the past will be comparing a conventional existing home that's 10 years old, as an example, to a brand new high performance custom new build. And they're forgetting to look at what that deferred maintenance, what it's going to cost them to fix that property and upkeep it and maintain it. The green cost asset is where everybody focuses. So all the focus is on how much it costs. Oh, it costs more. It costs 50 grand more. I use 50,000 as just a benchmark, but it's not really I mean, I guess it is the average from high performance these days without solar for the building envelope, or depending on the square footage, it could be around a $50,000 to $60,000 delta higher. But the point is, you're focusing on what it costs and you're not focusing on what the appreciation represents. These homes actually sell for a higher premium. They appreciate better than a conventional home. We've been when managing to find data and actually look at data going back to homes we closed 5 years ago. And that is pretty substantial that they're still operating at what they were predicted to do, and they're holding their value and appreciating better than the rest of the area that the home's located in. The energy cost, that's a no-brainer, were obviously lower than a conventional home. So these are kind of the four things that we say you need to look at when you're evaluating if you want to do green, or will go to a high performance level in your design or in your upgrade of your current home. The key points for the appraisal. This is the biggest takeaway, guys. This slide's probably most important for people to know informationally. So you're able to request a competent appraiser to actually value and do the report on the home. The appraisal's independent requirement, called the air policy, underneath USPAP ruling, which is what governs the appraisal industry, is the competency ruling, which says that their lack of experience. If an appraiser isn't skilled in the art of doing this type of unique home, you're allowed to go outside that panel and find someone who is. So you have a right to ask for the appraiser, and that or for someone that's competent in the art of and skilled to be able to appraise this type of home. In the back of this slide, I have two slides that are in the back of this presentation that shows you the verbiage on what you can do and add to your sales contracts and your builder contracts. It's two different samples. It's not cast in stone. You don't have to do it, but it gives you some guidance on things you can add to the contract to make sure that competency ruling is intact in your agreement. Market comparison. So we used a paired sales analysis. That's or an income approach, but mostly we're hybriding this paired sales analysis, which means comparables. We're looking at comps of different properties, and that's the standard in the industry. But we're also using an income approach for the energy savings themselves. The building operation, one of the things you want to know is save energy before you make energy. In other words, don't go pop solar on a house and not fix the building itself and make sure the building is resilient and energy efficient and tight as it can be before you start adding solar or geothermal or whatever energy you're going to use. And by the way, you'll reduce the cost of that energy resource by upgrading the building envelope itself, which is what you're lending on. You're not lending on a piece of equipment like solar or geothermal, which costs much less than it used to. The other thing we want to say about this is you do not need a comp to match the subject property upgrades. That is a misconception. So people think, oh, I've got a house with solar. I need a comp for another comparable property that has solar. I have a structured insulated panel envelope home, or insulated concrete or whatever, and that they have to find an exact match for that type of product. That is not true. If you think about this logically, when you have a swimming pool, an ADU, anything that's different that's unique to that property, that becomes the amenity of the property, not the actual value. You don't need to have a comp for another pool in order to do an appraisal. So that is something that I really want to drive home. These are probably the two most important points in the presentation, in my opinion. Provide quantified sufficient data. So you can't just say, appraiser, get me this house appraised, and not give them the data that they need. They need regional building codes, comparables, like what's your energy, International Energy Conservation Code. So if your IECC code is 2021, which is pretty much the Baltimore region, you're already building green. You're just not building to that higher green premium standard of what we consider high performance, but you're not that far away from being able to achieve that goal. You need a home energy rating. You need a HERS, a home energy rating system report, and I'm going to go through that a little bit later. There's BPI, Building Performance Institute. There's the Appraisal Institute's Green Addendum. Real-time utility baselines can also be sufficient to support the story on the efficiency of the home, the actual operating expenses and savings. Fannie Mae allows up to 15% adjustment on appraisal. People don't know that. It used to be 10, they bumped it up to 15. Never have I seen a 15% adjustment, but I will tell you the highest we've seen is 11%, which had an electric vehicle charging station, which is why I got 11. Average is about 8% premium to 10. So 8 for very high, 10 for super high performance like passive house design or, some of the better building designs that the Department of Energy has championed. So solar, geothermal, rainwater harvesting, we do a lot of that in Texas. It's a great program. Sole source with no other hookup, but rainwater, it's kind of a cool product and project. And then available tools. So you can calculate your energy savings at greenenergy.money. The calculators are there. There's a link there. Ecotrope and ResNet offer the HERS reports. The Department of Energy has many, many different resources that you can use. NREL has some sites too for modeling tools that they've just deployed in the last year and a half, I think, or even more recently. But there's a lot of data that when I first wrote my first book in 2009, there was no data. I mean, there was nothing to research. So it's very interesting how this market has finally evolved and building science has picked this up to the next level, which is, pretty awesome for everybody. So what is a green premium versus a brown discount? Well, we're already getting brown discounts in the marketplace. On the appraisal reports now, they have a condition, they have a condition of the property. So this condition that's on the appraisal report is actually a brown discount. That means that you've got a lot of deferred maintenance, very high deferred maintenance. The energy operating costs are super high on these types of homes. So there's a very big disparity between a brown discount and a green premium, where a premium is going to be a high quality asset. It's going to be more sufficient in being able to quantify what that house is worth with the energy savings and the reduction of carbon, of course. So also the life cycle obsolescence in a brown discount. So we're seeing that happening more and more, where I'm predicting that we're going to have potential mortgage write-downs in the future. We're already seeing investors on the coast not doing any more loans, or really just being very, very, very picky about what areas they'll lend in. So we're already seeing some of this climate change impacting the lending community. So there's two types of retrofit and new build, basically. You can purchase for sales, and for the real estate market, I would say purchase and retrofits at the point of sale. So you purchase a green home, a spec home that's already built, or you retrofit them. There are several programs that are available in the market, from the Fannie Mae to Freddie Mac and FHA, of course. These are the typical loans that are available. The other is the ground up land purchase 1 and 2 time close. And those are, readily available through local banks, credit unions, private equity loans. There's ways to cut it up. You can do home equity lines of credit sometimes if it's small enough project on an existing property, or construction to perm, utility financing options. And it depends on the utility, where I don't believe that BG&E has that on-bill financing. I'm not sure. That's a good question. I'll have to upgrade and look at that. The builder spec and development and SBA credit lines are also part of the story that you can for spec homes. I work with the Federal Savings Bank, and we do have a green appraisal panel at the bank. We have a green lending team, underwriting, closing. We specialize. It's one of the best teams I've ever worked with in the country. Nationwide, we can do this product in construction and retrofits, but most importantly, we can do the green underwriting and green valuation all in-house. We do specialty investment properties, fix and flip, debt service loans, unsecured credit lines, commercial, residential, mixed use, mostly staying in the bucket of, you know, residential homes or, our rentals. And so these are some of the products that are offered. Here's an example of one of the homes we funded in Ocala, Florida. It was the first FHA near net zero spec home in the country that I know of. We also did a VA on the back end of this with the same builder developer. This is a project that's, 41 homes are coming out of that region, that and different region that they're building in. But this is the same model they use every single time. They're using structured insulated panels. These homes are actually approved for a higher wind velocity rather with ANSI, and they're building beyond code. So their energy bills are $250 a year. It's pretty outstanding. And some of these homes we financed as far back that we're able to see that they're still performing better than they were predicted to do, which is fantastic. So you can see the future value of what this represents over 20 years. I mean, if you cut it in half, it's still substantial what the energy and annual energy savings are. So these are the types of analytics and marketing flyers, if you will, that we are able to produce and generate for our builder and real estate markets and partners. These are other case studies that were closed. This is another one. This was a VA one. We got a 1% green premium, which was a miracle because this builder had 3 VA loans bust out. They just could not get their head around this green premium and the fact that these homes were worth more. But we actually succeeded in that. So that was quite a story. That house actually closed right after Hurricane Ian, and it was the only house standing after in the neighborhood. It was pretty interesting. Northern Minnesota, this was a ICF custom home with $350 utility. Carbon emissions per year were below par. I mean, I think the average on all these homes is about 8 to 10 carbon tons a year, which is pretty low for a home. Austin, Texas, this was rainwater only. It was a green premium of 9%. This was, just a standard stick-built home with metal roof, but the rainwater actually added another dimension to the sustainability of the project. It's one we did in Poconos, Central PA. Love to have one in Baltimore if anyone wants to call me. Central PA was a -2, so this was beyond code. I mean, this was state of the art. Some of the technology that went into this home weren't even on the shelf yet for in the marketplace. They were off shelf, just new prototypes. So it's a really interesting project. It's also a huge home. It was, several $1,000,000. You can see it was like very, very spacious. So there's a retrofit market, and I think we already know this in Baltimore. I don't need to actually go too deep on this, but I would say that this is a grand opportunity for us to upgrade these homes that are being retrofitted right now in the city and to bring them up to beyond code and make it a very resilient story for our state. So in the secondary market, we have sold these loans with no issue since 2014 on the green premium, Fannie, Freddie, and it conforms to marketplace, US Bank, FHA, all of them have have acknowledged and been accepted in the marketplace. No buybacks. And I want to say one other thing about it. Our appraisers are so competent that we've had one underwriting guideline since 2014 that we had to address. Never do we have appraisal conditions on these. It's pretty outstanding, and it's an anomaly because all the conventional ones we get all the time that need to be, fixed or some kind of issues on the appraisal. So I want to thank you we look forward to serving you. And also wanted to announce that my new green energy ebook is going to be finished in the next month. We hope by Earth Day. And there's a pre-launch code that you can sign up for if you'd like to get a copy of the book, which all this information's in the book, by the way. Last but not least, I want to show that there's two different samples for the contracts for realtors and builders, and these are different language that basically says the what I've shared with you so far, and it gives you the I don't know about legal, you would have to run this by your attorneys, but I will say that it does cover all the gamuts for what can go wrong in a green appraisal, and kind of buttons down to give guidance and support the seller, whoever that may be. There's another one that covers this as well. So this is either one of these can be used. So, and here's the appraisal independent requirement. I'm just giving you the USPAT language and what they've written, and also so you've got backup.
Great presentation, Teresa. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Do you have a few minutes for some questions?
Sure.
Okay, great. I want to tell a quick story about how we met originally. I was on YouTube, as I normally am, at YouTube University, and I came across a video that you did maybe 6 or 7 years ago. And I just thought it was so innovative, hearing about, green appraisals, and kind of green financing and what you do, because I've never met a lender in 25 years that does what you do. So I was totally fascinated about it. Went to your website, filled out your information form, and then you sent me an email, because I think at that time you were saying that you lived in Texas, maybe Austin. And I'm like, well, maybe next time I'm in Texas, because my company, Keller Williams, is headquartered in Texas. Maybe next time I'm in Austin, I'll look you up and see if I can schedule a conversation. But you sent me a message saying, you know what? I'm actually here in Baltimore. I live in Baltimore. I was just like, what? This is perfect. So, so I'm so glad that you're.
What was even greater about that was that the same day I was at a corporate meeting in Colorado. I was actually traveling
Yes,
at the
that's right.
time.
That's right.
And I said to the guys, I have got to get down in my hood. I just moved back here. It'll be 2 years in a Memorial Day. And I said, I've got to get some, new contacts. I need to meet people in my own community now, So it was so uncanny that I came back to my room and there was an email from you. It was crazy.
That is funny. That is very funny. So, so I've got a couple of questions here. What is a rainwater only green premium? I've never heard of that before.
Well, the green premium doesn't include the rainwater sole source. That was it's additional. It's to let
Okay.
people know that that's available. Now, it depends on your municipality and your state rules. In Texas, because of the drought situation, the Texas Water Board has gone beyond what I can even describe as exceptional in being able to get these systems approved. So
Mm-hmm.
rainwater systems, typically in Texas, parts of Oklahoma, Hawaii, it's regional play where you
Mm-hmm.
don't have a lot of water. You need less water than you think to manage a rainwater system. I think it's 7, 8 inches of I can't say the word precipitation per year to
Mm-hmm.
be able to have enough water. But you can also top it off, with trucking water in, which we had to do one year. I think it was 2011. We had that huge drought in the Texas regions, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
they had to truck the water in. But the bottom line is these systems are way better than a well. I mean, you're
Mm,
saving money. You can't
mhm,
drill another, you'd have to drill another well. You can't fill a well, but you can fill a cistern. And
mhm.
they become the go-to in the Texas Hill Country in the Austin region. I mean, pretty much every home that we're funding out there are rainwater harvesting now because it's
Interesting.
just cost prohibitive to do a well and the
Right.
water is not potable and the wells run dry. So this is the solution for
Mhm,
a well
mhm,
situation in
mhm.
certain regions. Now, municipalities may have an issue because they don't know what kind of this is filtered, it's carbon, they use carbon, they use UV lighting. It is very clean, the cleanest, cleaner water than what you get in your tap, actually.
Mhm.
But it's an act of God in some municipalities to get these kind of things approved. But I don't think it's as necessary in our region due to the fact that that we have so much precipitation here.
You mentioned green homes and the MLS system. This is a screenshot. What I wanted to pull out was if a homeowner is looking for a green home or a passive house or a net zero home in the multiple listing service, and our MLS that we have here in Maryland is the Bright MLS is the largest MLS in the country. Okay. This is what we have to choose from. Do you see my screen?
Okay, now I can.
You could see it. Okay. What do you see on it? Days on market, green program
Yeah,
type. Okay.
yeah, energy
S-
to home score.
Right. So these are the options. So if I have a buyer that's looking for a healthy, smart, high performance home, a passive house, or even a net zero home, we've got very few options. No, that's number one. I don't know if you've seen this, but there's no button for a buyer to push to find a net zero home or a passive house. That's the first challenge in our MLS. The second challenge is that even if it has one of these third-party environmental certifications, the agents unfortunately are not even notating it in the listing, which goes to the point that you were talking about. Yeah, I know that you don't need like kind properties to do appraisals, but I'm sure it would help the whole industry if there were more options for buyers and agents to be able to notate the types of, healthy, smart, high performance homes that they're marketing. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we have tried to no avail to get MLSs done all over the country.
Hmm.
Chicago, Austin, Dallas, Houston, Boston. I mean, it's all over the place. I've worked on this challenge for over a decade to finally
Hmm.
give up on it. I would say I mean, I hate to give you that news. I mean, the reality is there isn't enough inventory, as I said, and there is enough inventory, but it's not on the MLS. That's the
Right,
challenge
right,
we have.
right, right.
So I would say to any agent that's listing a green high performance home, put your certifications on the MLS. Don't worry about a green button. Okay. Just put them right there in
In
the
the
main
Yeah,
page.
yeah.
And, HERS rating is really
Into the
important.
remarks. Yeah. Hmm.
Believe it or not, the average, I would say that this is trending. Like what I find is the people that are adapting to this type of home are more educated. We're in a super, high educational zone. So most of about 40% of them are engineers,
Yeah.
20% are IT professionals. So tech
Right,
people get it.
right.
So they're going to know what a HERS is. If they
Hmm.
don't, they're going to go say, "Oh, this is a high performance home," and I would say high performance. What does
Sure.
that mean? That means a HERS over 50 or
Hmm.
under 50, sorry, under
Yeah.
50. And that's without solar. With solar, you're going to see zero. So HERS
Right.
is 100 worst case, zero is a green home.
Yep.
Okay. Is a high performance,
And
net
one
zero
and
home.
150 is an existing home.
Right. And the average
Right.
homes in Baltimore, I would say, are probably at least 100.
Yeah, 100, Yeah, easy.
Look at what
Easy.
year the building was built. I would
Right.
say put the year built on that thing immediately. If it was 2 years ago, we're going to know what code it was at. So
Mm.
we're about to jump up to 2024, maybe. I don't know. So much is changing around here. I can't guarantee it'll ever happen or happen
So
as on point as planned.
I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. If you would be so kind and pull back up your contact slide on the screen share, just so that's on the screen. So you talked about in your presentation, green appraisal key points provide quantified sufficient data. Where do there you go, perfect. Where do third-party environmental certifications fall into that? Lead, whether it's lead or well for residential or Energy
What do you,
Star.
but frame your question one more time?
Oh, sure. So in your presentation, you had green appraisal key points, provide uh quantified sufficient data, right?
Yeah,
Um
let's go back
and
there so we can have a visual.
right.
Oh,
Yeah, there you go.
there.
Yeah, so right, provide quantified data. So third-party data. So is that where like third-party environmental certifications would, fall into place, zero energy ready and indoor air plus and Energy
Lead for
Star?
homes, any of that would
Any of
be,
those would, okay.
you want the appraiser to know. So when the appraiser, the listing agents, please make sure that you have this data or ask the owner. Most
Mhm.
owners that build these kinds of homes have all their data, I
Right.
assure you.
They pay
And
they
they're
pay they paid
really, really willing to share it with you because it was a labor of love, if you will. They're pretty
and
attached to that.
and they paid a pretty penny to get that third party verification, unless it was Energy Star, which is generally free, although you have
But
to pay for the auditor.
But
But
it makes sense if you quantify this and show why are you paying more for this? I mean, I read an article recently. I didn't rebut it. I should have sent the editor a note because it was like commercial buildings cost, 15% or 30% more than a conventional commercial building, a lead commercial
hmm
building.
hmm
But they didn't talk about the energy savings. These people recovered that cost in 3 to 5 years.
right, right. The
That's how
payback time is
fast the
quick.
payback is. Commercial
Right.
is a lot faster payback. When you look at paybacks on a residential, it's kind of hard to quantify that because it's so long term,
So
but we
how do
have
you
we've quantified it in the fact of being able to show, let me show you that slide again. This is where this. So being able to
Mhm.
show, and my calculator, greenenergy.money, shows these numbers. This is where it came, where the data, well, the data didn't come from here, it came from the HERS,
Mhm.
and the builder and, different building science people. But we were able to take that data and put it right into the calculators online. So I'm going to show you too what I didn't cover the HERS. I don't, I just skipped over that because my screen was covered probably. So
That's
this
fine.
is an appraisal rating E1 through E6, which matches the appraisal grid of the condition C1 rating that I talked about earlier.
hmm
So here you've got the best house, net zero, and here's your average home here.
hmm
That's
hmm
basically the Hertz index. And I can say that after years of doing this analysis and completing major, amounts of transactions,
hmm
this is works. I've never had an issue with getting a green premium with the right data.
And
And
it sounds
also,
like,
you've got to have a trained appraiser, though,
yeah, yeah.
and that's the key.
Well, it sounds
So
like the calculator on your website really does a great job of explaining, the total cost of ownership versus, upfront cost. And I think
yes.
that's where a lot of people get stuck is just, I'm paying a 3%, 5% premium to go quote unquote green, but they're really not focusing on the total cost of ownership, which I think is what you're articulating here on the screen.
Yes, thank you.
hmm hmm so what's your opinion on we've got 50, 75,000 homes that need to be rebuilt on the West Coast because of the fire disaster that we've had out there. And my guesstimation is that the labor that's needed for the home building industry, and the materials are kind of all headed west. How do you think that's going to affect home building on the East Coast and retrofits on the East Coast?
Well, given the tariff situation, I mean,
Mm,
it's just going to be awful all the way around the block. I mean, a lot of the resources we saw that happen in Houston, during the hurricanes
mhm,
and in Florida as well. And what happens is everybody kind of gravitates to doing that, but a lot of builders quit engaging in that business under FEMA because they just had trouble with their contracts. So they stopped doing it. So I haven't noticed of late that we've had building, delays because of the different inclement weather or California. There's a lot of people in California, a lot of builders and construction deals. I can't speak to what they're doing, but I would say that it's going to impact a little bit, but not as much on the East Coast.
right, but I mean,
But the
when have we
tariffs are going
ever
to impact more
when
than
have
I
we
think
ever
that.
had 45,000 homeowners that are like, I need my house today, right? So I think that's what makes the situation fairly unique. But
Well, California is so difficult to navigate with their
yeah,
laws and regulations that you would have to be licensed to do business there. And I'm not sure contractors of that sort that would be doing this kind of work are going to be even qualified to go out there.
that's an interesting point. Okay, interesting perspective. Well, Teresa, I'm so glad that we met. I'm even happier that you're here in Baltimore.
Thank
And
you,
I'm so
Aaron.
glad that you took time to present today, and I appreciate your subject matter expertise and your thought leadership on the topic. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me and for offering this kind of venue in our community. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
All right, happy spring.
Happy spring. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.